Thanks once again for joining us here at Radio Juxtapoz. Coming up in this episode, we are in conversation with the street photography legends Ed and Deanna Templeton. The interview itself was conducted out in Japan at the RVCA Beautiful Losers show, and if you want to get straight into it, then skip forward to about minute 7. Otherwise, you can hear me and Evan take a little minute just to kind of set the scene for you. I hope you enjoy this episode. If you do, make sure you subscribe, hit us up in the comments, let us know what you think. This is a slightly different episode we got coming up right now. A different interview, different ballpark.
It's sort of part 2 of the RVCA World Tour interviews. This one is unique in a couple of ways. First, I think this is our first husband-wife duo on the pod, Ed and Deanna Templeton. And they're photographers, and we talk a lot about the art of photography and the art of street photography and their history with Tokyo, because they have a long history of visiting Tokyo and taking photos on the street there. And as part of this retrospective / refresh of Beautiful Losers, Aaron Rose had both of them come out and show kind of like what they do. A lot of their photography works, and in Ed's case, photography and a little bit of drawing. It's interesting that a husband and wife duo talking about walking the streets of a city together and the things that they see and how they bounce off each other about what they consider to be each's aesthetic.
This is something that I found listening back to the interview. I found it pretty interesting, the kind of the competitive nature, the naturally competitive nature, and then that kind of like an assigned aesthetic. I'm taking this shot because this is me, and that's the kind of stuff that you do. So it was really interesting. But you know, they've been together for like what, 20, 28 years, 30 years?
Yeah.
They've been married?
Yeah. And I think that's kind of a cool, special part of the Beautiful Losers story, is like how they are like this couple that's kind of gone through the whole thing, and both their careers have kind of taken off in separate ways, but they still have a practice that is not reliant on each other, but they actually bring each other to each other's projects, which... That story that she tells, and we'll hear it, about she grabbed Ed because she thought that was Ed's shot, and she's kicking herself because that was like a photo she should have taken. I love that because it was so honest,
Candid. It was really honest.
Yeah, and
you could tell that there's like, wow, you kind of carried that around with you, that story. Like that's not been let go.
Right. And I just think it's when you're in a place as particular as Tokyo, or any city that has its own sort of aesthetic and vibe, because Tokyo really is like no other place. I like the way they talked about shooting photos in a place like that. That's a city. There's no like real political strife that they're really talking about. It's just like how unique a place can be. If you're into photography, it's kind of, there's some great insight into it.
Yeah, especially, you know, for us in the podcast, because we've kind of covered a few different areas, and this is the first time we've had a street photographer in there. And I found it really interesting, kind of like trying to sort of see, you know, kind of like learning their process, what interests them, what they don't like. I found that there's a section, once again, you're going to hear this later, where they start talking about the like the lens that they'll go to mask out advertising appearing. But then when we look retrospectively at old, you know, street photography, the advertising is it's almost like an organic, intrinsic part of that image. And it's kind of interesting to see how the debate sits between, you know, should you incorporate that because it's part of the natural landscape, or should you go to lens? In Ed's case, which he does, is go to lens to mask and crop it out. And it was interesting to see how they believe that we'll look back on this in the future.
Right. And like how he doesn't want to have iPhones in his photos, or for a while that was kind of one of the parameters. I think what's fascinating about, especially when you're dealing with like fine art photographers, everybody's got a camera now. Everybody can take a photo. Everybody shares their photos. Everybody fancies themselves some sort of photographer with a filter and everything. But it's when you actually talk to people who have made a fine art career out of shooting photos, it's the the craft of it is so much different than just somebody with an iPhone. And that's, I think, what comes through in this talk, which I really appreciate, because I think street photography and photography in general is an art form that people, they know when they see a good photo, but I think they don't understand what goes into taking a good photo. And this kind of talks a little bit about that, which we haven't had a chance to really have that, as you were saying, have that discussion on the pod before.
So hopefully any budding street photographers, this is going to up your game a little bit. We can't guarantee that. That doesn't come with a stone cold guarantee, but hopefully it'll nudge you in the right direction.
Yeah, or at least maybe get you to off your... Well, actually, I don't know. Ed talks about shooting with his iPhone. Maybe it'll just change your perception of how you see the city around you if you're really into taking photos of your town. This is the first interview I've ever done in shorts before.
I think maybe me too. No, probably not.
I feel like this is like a really big deal this for me.
I think I probably have done interviews in shorts before as a pro skateboarder, but in my recent life as a fat old retired skateboarder, this is clearly the first interview I've done in shorts in the last 10 to 15 years.
I think we should start with we're in Tokyo. It's a RVCA sort of reunion show. Is that what we would call it? I mean, excuse me, a Beautiful Losers reunion, kind of bringing it back. It's all new work though, for the most part, from everybody.
Yeah, it's like the same people in different iterations as far as what can fit in a certain area.
But definitely new work from the original.
Yeah,
Beautiful
new work
Losers
from
show
the
that
original
traveled
artist. Yeah,
around.
nothing I think from the original show is in these shows, in both of the shows so far.
Like, how do you are you guys like nostalgic people? Like, is there something like, do you feel, are you okay with like the kind of nostalgia of it? Because there is a little bit of nostalgia about a certain time and certain period.
Definitely.
I think we're total nostalgia junkies in a lot of ways, although it's something that I know is not necessarily the correct course, so I fight it. I think as photographers, like, nostalgia is a big part of like everything. You're saving, you're archiving and saving everything, and then looking back and finding things. And you know, for me, every time I look back at older stuff, I kind of like it better, and I find myself shaking my fist at the sky that I wasn't like born in the 50s, because I look at all these cool old street photos from the 50s, 60s, 70s before cell phones, and you just realize how, specifically talking about street photography, it's like everything has changed. The cell phone has changed everything, and boredom is not the same anymore, because every free moment anyone has in a major city now is spent looking at their messages, their phone, their Instagram, whatever. And
that's a worldwide thing.
It's a worldwide. Yeah. So the streets are just people looking at phones now. And so as a street photographer, those moments of people looking off at the bus bench, like waiting for the bus or whatever, are kind of like non-existent. It's like really hard to find those now. Yeah. So that's something.
So I think if we did travel to Cuba and possibly North Korea, we might be able to experience.
Yeah, I mean, there might be some places, but that's something. So I think I have a nostalgia bug. I think Deanna has a nostalgia bug. But like I said, I think it's not necessarily the best. Like, I don't think it's good to revel in nostalgia and and pedal in it too much, especially in the context of like looking back at the Beautiful Losers in a way. Yeah. So I think it's good that it's like more of a kind of a fun thing. I think it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for a company like RVCA saying, hey, we have money, we want to make a cool event, like let's celebrate this. Mm-hmm. And so in the spirit of like, let's celebrate something that we all look back on fondly and was cool and is now taught in schools. I mean, that's the thing. I end up talking to a lot of teachers who teach art school or kids who go to art school, and I hear it a lot. I mean, it's like the second thing I hear after like Welcome to Hell was
What about like just the camaraderie part of it? Like the fact that you guys are all like, there's a group of you that have known each other for years and you guys are like back together, kind of working side by side. Like that's kind of got to be a fun, kind of exciting.
Well, like I was telling Ed, we've always known, like we've known Espo, but I don't know if like we've actually like knew him, like, you know, passing hello, hey, what's up, but being this time around, being in the same space, working with him and setting up, it's been incredible. Like just hearing his wit and the little throwaways that he's
super funny.
He's awesome. Like I feel like this is the most we've gotten to connect with him, and this is
really
probably
cool.
the best part of the trip.
Me and Aaron were talking just a moment like earlier today, and he said exactly what you're saying. He's like, this is the show for us. Like the show for us is being here, music's playing, we're all just putting our stuff up, getting stuff ready. That's the show.
Right.
And like once the opening happens, it's kind of like we pass it off to the viewer for 5 days in this case, and we kind of walk away from it. But the real fun for us as the insiders is just.
I've always felt that if I'm going to do any coverage of a show, the opening doesn't matter. It's the 4 or 5 days before when the artists are kind of building the work and talking with each other and going over like what they do. That's where the stories happen. You know, once the opening is tonight, it's a little bit like it's for other people at that point, which is great. It's for the audience, but like there's that kind of just watching everybody do their craft.
What's interesting too, I think for the build-ups for the show, like you're working, the opening happens, and then I feel like for Ed, a lot of the times, like you don't even really get to look at what you did until like days after. Like we'll have to go back to actually really look at, not to sound like self-serving, like what we accomplished, but you know, like seeing your vision up there, because it's just you're so wrapped into the installation part of it too.
Especially for like the original Beautiful Losers, where I was installing a whole room-size cluster. You don't see the work anymore. They just become widgets. Yeah. They just become puzzle pieces trying to like make a cluster like that. So I rarely even get to like enjoy the photo. It's because a lot of times I'm pulling some of this stuff out of like storage, and it's like and then the opening happens and you're just talking to people and you're being interviewed or whatever. And then, it's like, it's hard to step back and go, okay, oh yeah, like, look at, as nostalgia junkies, look at your own work and just remember all the stuff, like the times that happened. And I know what you're saying.
Okay, so as photographers too, when you come to a place like Tokyo, are you kind of itching to go out and just start taking some photos on the street? And just because this is one of the best places in the world for street photography, just the characters and just it's a very, very much its own place. So like, do you guys get a little itchy? You're like, oh, I want to go out and
definitely
take some photos.
Yeah. The heat has been a real hindrance. It drains you.
Listeners, it's very, very hot outside, just for reference.
Yeah, what was it? It's 94 degrees today.
But it feels like 112.
It feels like 112. There's a very hot wind today that feels like a blow dryer in your face.
And the humidity is probably 80s, 90s%.
Yeah, so it's real swampy here.
Anyone who's listening from a place that has higher humidity, it's like, stop, you're crying.
Stop crying about it. I know, like people, I mean, I think New York is not that different from this right now.
Yeah, but I just even now, I saw you take a photo of the guy sleeping in the corner of the Starbucks. There's just like these little moments constantly here.
Yeah.
That are.
No, the density of the city is insane. There's so many people. So the proximity that you live with amongst people at all times here. And it does create a lot of photos. So I've been itching. It's been a little strange this time because there has been just like a schedule of things that needs to be done. I have another exhibition that I had to set up that's on top of the Beautiful Losers one. So we've just been running around from air conditioning to air conditioning, doing the things we need to do. And in between, when we're on the streets, I mean, I've been shooting a little bit, but the heat really does kind of like, I've noticed it's taking my nerve away too. Because when I come to Tokyo, I feel more like brazen than ever, I think, because everyone's so polite here. And so you kind of take advantage of that a little bit. Like I just
not to take advantage, but it is like.
No, I mean, but I just like shoot people in the face like left and right as I'm walking down the street, and no one seems to care or anything like that. Or I don't feel a repercussion from it. I don't feel like I'm gonna get like in New York. I might get socked for doing that, but I feel like here, I don't feel that, so I guess I take advantage of it to some extent.
But I also, like, I think you would agree too, though, this is a very camera culture society too. And especially with the youth. I mean, there's so much film photography here still, which is incredible.
Having said that, most people smile when they see you taking a photo. Yeah, they're not like angry.
But does that mean you take better photos, you think, because people are so, like, willing as subjects? Or do you find that the fact that you're being brazen is what it is?
For me, it's about nerve. Like,
and that's for most street photographers too.
I think so. It's having the nerve to do it, because it's like, I think all street photographers have you look at your work sometimes and you go, oh, I shot the back of this guy's head. Like, and then you realize, like, the back of the head is not like a photo, you know. You have to be like, the best photos I see are of the front of people. And so you have to get in front of people, and then and a lot of times you have to almost be seen or run the risk of being seen. And back to the heat, I mean, like, I feel like I've lost my nerve a little bit here. Like this, I've just been so swamped, and that I feel like people are maybe more
agitated because of the
heat. So I'm actually more scared to, like, get in people's faces on this trip so far. But I think maybe because we just came from Italy, that my flow is a little messed up. I like feel it, my street flow, because I feel like I was shooting a lot in Italy.
Yeah, but I feel like because we've been traveling here now for the last 4 years, and I feel like we've become very comfortable shooting here. So it is a little
First
interesting.
time in summer, though.
Yeah, first time in summer. And I think that's what's been a little disappointing for me, because this is one of my favorite countries to shoot in. And so I was really looking forward to it, because I've been struggling a little bit back at home. I'm just not finding much inspiration where I live anymore. I feel like I've done what I needed to do there. So I'm really looking forward to coming here. And now with the heat,
You get affected by the heat more than I do, though.
Yeah.
Like, it really changes your mood immediately. You get crabby.
I am coming upon menopause soon, so it could be something.
She just turned 50. She just turned 50 years old.
Yeah, I'm getting pre-heat flashes just from the heat.
I think it's the weather. I wouldn't get too physiological about it. I think it's because it's 112 degrees outside right now.
Yeah. So I don't know. My flow is a little off. But I was gonna say, we went to my birthday was on Saturday here.
Oh, happy birthday!
Thank you. And we went to Kamakura, the beach here, which we had gone to each year we've been here, but only in wintertime. And to see the transformation of that was really amazing, because they build stuff on the beach just for July and August only. We're talking, there's a river that bisects the beach there. They build a bridge over it. And we talked to a local there who was like, so I'm like, this bridge is new. And they're like, no, this is just a summer bridge. I'm like, so you break this down. You're like, yeah, this is just July and August. There's a bridge to cross.
Only in Japan.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Fully, really nice wooden, like, not just like a shanty, like a full-on, like, nice bridge that gets broken down. And it's just, and they build these cabanas on the beach with, like, restaurants, basically.
Yeah.
And
restaurants, showers,
bathrooms, snack bars, all these, like, a whole beach city is built there. Smoking areas are everywhere. And so that was really amazing. So, I mean, I shot 5 rolls on that day down there.
Yeah.
So
it was cooler, though, too. We had
but it was a little cooler, and there was, like, a lot of stuff going on.
And it was new for you, too.
And it was new,
yes.
It was like a new,
which was exciting.
like, every time we've been to that beach, it's been 5 people on it, the whole beach. And now, there's thousands of people. So it was a different scene, yeah.
So I guess that's the thing, too. A new place for photographers is once you find a little thread that you want to follow. I assume that's when the juices start flowing.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. But then you fall into the trap of, like, shooting like following the tropes.
Yeah.
That's what I worry about. I mean, I just did this book.
Do you feel it's almost like you're following, like, the tourist kind of, like, method almost?
But that's not necessarily bad, because but you do, it's like building. It's like
that's how you
stepping
get into the
stones.
flow, yeah.
So sometimes you gotta just shoot what's typical and what everyone else is gonna shoot. But also, I mean, we're human beings still. We're still traveling. It's like I want to have these memory shots as well.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But I do think you need to break the ice somewhere, and it might be let's choose the easiest thing to photograph first, and then.
I think I also try to focus on human things, like little things that humans end up doing, or like those human situations, so that the location doesn't matter as much. Like the stuff I'm trying to shoot would happen in New York or happen in the Midwest or anywhere, and Japan. And if, in that case, it's like the setting might add to the photo, but it doesn't necessarily, like the subject of the photo is usually someone doing something, and therefore it doesn't matter where it is.
But you're not.
And not so much the tropes, but there, that's what I worry. I mean, doing this book, for instance, it's like, it's a book about street photos from Tokyo, and my big worry is like, okay, there's like a huge group of like street photographers who live here, who are going to be like, who the fuck is this white guy making a book on Tokyo who's only been here 8 times,
But you're not saying you own Tokyo.
No, I'm not. No,
that's the thing. It's kind of it's like an interesting part of it. It's that that's the point, is that you've been here 8 times.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah. I think I just like internalize this like fear of like, okay, and it's a small fear, but I'm just saying like, I'm just expressing my worry, my internal worry that like. That a street photographer from
when
here,
people come to HB and shoot, we're like, what?
Is gonna, but someone might be like, oh, this is so typical. Like the publisher was like, oh, this guy's a famous drag queen, trans person who walks around Ginza all the time, So I should have assumed that, seeing him walking down the street, like dressed like this. I was like, this guy must have been shot. Here I shoot it, put it in my book, and I'm like assuming local photographers can be like, of course he shot that guy. It's so easy. Like, like
who are like the preeminent like Japanese street photographers?
I don't know a lot of the ones currently by name, and some of the ones that I do know, I can't remember their names because a lot of times the Japanese names like blend into like this.
Daido has to be the most.
No, I mean there's the famous ones like Daido is like probably the most famous Japanese street photographer that's currently still alive and actually working and making books. There's some. I mean, I can give you some names later once I look at my Instagram, because I follow a couple street guys from here who are shooting like great portraits of people around the Ueno area.
That's interesting because there's you said men, and there's probably, I can't imagine there's many.
We saw an exhibition of a woman, and we met her last time we were here.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
What was interesting. It was like a feminist stance.
She had a very like strong feminist stance in her work.
But I don't remember her name.
But I can't remember her name either.
I
could look it up. That's the thing. It's like so hard to just remember.
Hero Mix was probably the first
that influenced her a lot.
That influenced me. I don't know if you'd actually consider her a street photographer, but she documented her life and friends. But she definitely got me interested in photography.
Yeah, I remember you being really excited about that book and. Got you, I think that was like one of your first inspirations was Hero Mix.
You got me the camera.
But there's some people doing some really cool work. I mean, that woman we saw, she had a show at the Fuji Gallery in Shinjuku. And then the guy who has an Instagram account, Tokyo Camera Style.
I follow that, yeah.
And that's a big white guy from Nebraska. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's like a 7-foot white guy. But he's been living here.
He sticks out.
Yeah.
And that's he doesn't even need to worry about being brazen. He's just brazen by just being.
By being a gaijin.
Yeah. Well, not lucky.
He speaks fluent Japanese.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And he's been here for 16 years, so he really knows the culture and knows the people. And like we've been walking around shooting with him a few times, and to see like it gives you a stark example of what we miss as street photographer or photographers in general, who don't speak the language and are not like as in tune to like how the culture works. Because to see him shoot and then be able to like have a conversation with the people he just shot, like we saw him shoot this child at a park.
Not ask, just
shot
shooting.
it, and I was just like, oh, this is kind of crazy. Like the parents are right there. It's something I might have been like worried about, because the parents might have been like, why are you shooting our kid? But then him like understanding the culture better and knowing like. He just like, I don't know what he said even, but he like started talking to the parents, and then he, next thing you know, he's doing Rochambeau with the kids, like, because all the kids here love to do.
And then he took a family photo of them, like with their phone and with his, and it was just.
And we realized like seeing that interaction was like, we're missing so much, like, because we could just like say, hey, and like a lot of the people would probably be like, why are you here? Let's talk. Like, what are you shooting? Why? And like, and it could be really nice. And then you could open up to more photos. But we're just like, we know two Japanese words. Like,
that's where the language barrier and the sort of cultural barrier really plays into it.
We met a really sweet old lady in Fukuoka who really wanted to explain
that was amazing.
A sculpture outside that we were just admiring.
We were just looking at this sculpture by this museum, and she came up to us and started talking, and we were like, we don't understand, you know. And she took our hand. This had to be like a 90-year-old woman, you know. Yeah. She took our hand and was like trying to speak to us in Japanese.
But she called over security to see if they could explain what we were looking at.
And it was just facial expressions, you know. We were smiling and like, oh, you're so cute, and like, and she was just trying to say something about this. It was like a sculpture of a big rabbit, and we were just like, it's really cool, like, you know, thumbs up and smiles and like again, trying to say where we were from and like, but yeah.
I'm sure she had stories to tell.
Do you guys have do you have go-tos when you come to Japan or when you come to Tokyo? Like, you have like a plan of where you want to go to, or
usually,
yeah. And now our last year we came across Ueno. That's
I'd like to. I mean, our usual plan is just we kind of just pick a spot and just start walking. Like, this is a great get lost city, especially now with cell phones. Back before cell phones, you'd be fucked. But
you'd never get back to it.
You would never get back.
I remember going here for the first time, like, I don't know how this is going to happen.
Yeah.
No, we have to get in a taxi and pray that they know where.
We had insane experiences like that. We found a vegan restaurant. We had the address written down.
Wait, are you both vegans?
We're both vegans.
This is not an easy place, I feel like. At least maybe it's getting better now.
It's easier now. There's a ton of places. And there's like an app, Happy Cow app, that basically tells you where everything is. So it's like really easy now.
I think the hotel where this podcast is coming from.
This hotel has like a vegan food. There's a lot of, like, that whole thing has exploded. Like,
thank you, Ruka and Trunk Hotel. Good. That's a good plug. That's good. You have to do that. It's good.
So yeah, our plan is like, we have food locations, we have art locations we want to see, and then those kind of locations dictate where we're going to go.
But wait, finish your
story.
story.
And so we'll walk a lot, though.
Because I know where you're going with before we had cell phones and we had the list of the name of the restaurant.
Well, yeah. So back, before that, we had the address to a restaurant. We get in a cab. The cab just looks at it, doesn't know it. Pushes the eject button, because the doors open, like the automatic doors, but that was his symbol for like, get the fuck out of my cab.
We kind of looked at each other. We didn't even go.
They're so polite about it, but they're also kind of...
Yeah. No, he just looked. We sat down and the door closed. We gave him the address and he just went. just looked at the address and then pushed the button and we were like, okay, I guess we're leaving.
I love like unexplained. Get the fuck out.
Yeah.
But
then we ended up. So we're somehow we get to the general area and we're like looking around lost, and there's like a guy parking a scooter and he sees us looking around and he's just like, can I help you? And you're like, we're trying to find this place, and he's just like calls the place for us on his phone.
He doesn't speak English though, but he understood what we were trying. Like, we're looking for this.
Calls the place.
Saw the face of lost.
Finds out where they are, and he's like, okay, like I know, and then escorted us 2 blocks.
Walked us to the restaurant.
Like, this is just a guy who's just probably getting off work, going to his house, and he just takes the time to like call a restaurant for us, walk us 2 blocks to the place, show us where it is, and then we're just like, thank you, like the only word we know.
I don't know if that would happen in America. Maybe not now. I feel like nowadays it would be, you might have like a somewhat conversation, but usually it's down there.
Yeah, use your Google. Use your Google, bitch. Right. Like, but this is before that, so it was really like, and that's, the culture's been like that. Even now with the cell phones, like if we are in a subway station looking around for a second, like we've had it 5 or 6 times, people come up like, can I help you?
Yeah, instantly.
Just random people, lady with her stroller and her kid, like, can I help you find something? Like, they're eager to help, and it's like, that's something that's so nice about this culture that we enjoy as visitors. But we're on a tangent from something else. We were on a tangent though. So how we like our plan.
This is all about a tangent. This is one tangent. We're good.
So for us, we know, like, we have restaurants, we have art galleries, and then for us, it's like stay off the tube as much as possible, stay off taxis, and just walk. So we're just
I'm with you on that.
Put in like 30,000 steps a day kind of thing.
Just having a destination walking, and then taking our
time going to that
there.
destination. Because I found, like, when we just try to go out and say we're shooting and just get lost, like we end up flipping out and getting pissed and like being indecisive, like, where do you want to go? Which way do you want to go? And like, so it's better if we just go, okay, we're going like from point A to this gallery, and in between that, we're going to just meander and shoot, and it's going to take an hour to get there.
Wait, does it ever happen where like one of you is like feeling the spot and the other one's not, and it just kind of becomes like, okay, well, how are we going to do this?
Yeah, sometimes sometimes you just kind of sit down and like let me shoot around for a while. If I'm,
And same with
and then it's a lot of times she'll like start talking to someone for a portrait, and then that ends up being a half an hour. So then I just have to like walk around, try to shoot more while she's talking to someone.
Yeah, but I come back with stories. Did you know this person?
Yeah, yeah, it's good. I mean, because I'm a little more of a run and gunner, and this is more back at home because with the language barrier, but. You know, she'll stop and talk to someone and get a really cool portrait that I'm always jealous of, and a story, but it takes a half an hour, and that's like.
But most of the time, it's just patience.
Yeah.
It's just, understanding.
Yeah,
Once
and then
I
we,
have to go to the bathroom, it's like, can we move this along?
and there's like sort of like we fight a little bit over photos sometimes because we're both walking and shooting, and so the same. You want to tell that story? It's like her big regret in life. Recent life is this photo in here in this book. I'll describe it for the podcast listeners. Do you want to talk about it, Deanna?
Well,
So here's
it
the
was
photo.
it was here in Tokyo, and we were walking, point A to point B. We come around the corner, and I see this older man.
This old man reading a newspaper, and the newspaper has in the middle a huge photo of a nude woman. So it's like a guy looking at a nudie newspaper.
Yeah, and he was like on the edge of a cafe.
He's in a cafe, but you could see him from the street.
Okay.
And so I saw it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible.
You're looking over his shoulder onto the nude woman in the.
And he was holding that pose for a bit.
Yeah, he's just looking at it. And
He's just reading something on the side of it.
And so then I think Ed was in front, because usually Ed walks faster than I, so I realized he didn't see that. It's like, because otherwise I would have saw his little camera go to the side. But so I catch up to him like, oh my gosh, did you see it? Like, instead of me taking the photo, which my first
Because you're nice and you
instinct-
thought this is such an Ed photo, and you said, Ed, check this out.
It's both are.
But now she's like, but then once I shot it, she's just like, as I was shooting it, she's basically like, wait, why didn't I shoot this?
Yeah,
And
it
she was
just
so
felt like it was
pissed.
just so natural for me to go, hey, did you see that? That was crazy. And he's like, what? And so then he went back and shot it, and then afterwards, and I was like,
And I do that for you though.
yeah, but not,
Like if I see
that's a
something that's
great
like,
shot.
if I see something that's like a Deanna photo, I'm like, oh, this is like something you would shoot. I pointed out to you, but you pointed out to me. But yeah, I think you regretted it because they're like, wait, this could be my photo too.
Yes, and that was.
And that put her into depression, So I'm in the doghouse
was a
now
whole
because
day.
she was nice
No,
to me.
but I didn't,
You
yeah.
were mad though, and
I was
like,
mad at myself, not at
you
you.
were mad, but it affected the whole
Did
day.
he take a good photo though? Are
He
you
took
happy with the photo?
he took a great photo.
Okay.
I was a little sad to see it in the next exhibition so big.
And
I
it's in
should've
the
got
book.
I
photo.
like the competitive.
I should have got credit
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah,
You didn't even
seen by
see it.
Deanna.
How did you? It's crazy because he usually sees these things. Like, you're the first thing to see anything nude or sex or something like that. It's like, how did you not see that?
You've got nude vision.
I guess
You
so.
do. You got nude dude vision.
Nude vision. That is something. It's a condition.
Condition.
Yeah, we're working through it.
So yeah, I mean, now we're explaining how there are some competitive differences sometimes.
Yeah, but that's okay. That pushes then.
For the most part, it works pretty fluidly somehow.
But that's the way street photography works too. Like I know in New York, there's like certain photographers that have certain blocks, right? That that's their zone.
I don't know. I think so.
Yeah, I
We
think
found
so.
it
I've
in
infringed on
London.
someone's block by
I don't
accident.
know if like someone said that in Cheryl Dunn's documentary or not, but it was just like these kind of zones, like where like these photographers, that's kind of their area, and like you kind of don't encroach maybe on it a little bit. So there is a competitive nature to street photography.
I didn't see it there, but when a couple years back when we were in London on that one corner, we started noticing
Oh,
all the other photographers on that street.
I think that's just like a hot spot. I mean, like Oxford
Obviously, we
Street
were
in
there,
London,
too.
it's like a big shopping street with tons of people. But there is a certain time of the day when the
Light.
sun just like comes straight down it,
Yeah.
so everyone's lit up crazy. And if
Yeah.
you walk like from Oxford Street down to like Tottenham Court, it's basically the sun's at your back, and there's a whole
Perfect.
parade of people.
Yeah.
But we found ourselves there at that point, kind of by chance, and suddenly like every 10th person is like some Leica toting street photographer guy, and you just start feeling like, oh, this is really weird. Like we're that guy too. Like,
do you ever get noticed in those situations? Do people recognize you guys?
I have in some cases. I mean, yeah, it's happened. Like not as much as you would think. Like a lot of the guys, like.
I guess because as photographers, like you are behind the camera a lot of the times, but you guys have been in front of the cameras as well, so that's why I'm curious.
I was gonna say though, like how you were saying, skaters will recognize you. I think the funniest thing is though if we're out on the pier shooting, and like Ed said, like he usually likes to run and gun or try to go unnoticed, or like he'll see a shot or something that he wants to shoot, and he'll get ready for it, and then just wants to shoot it and move on. And every now and then Ed will start getting set up,
uncanny.
start his walk, and someone from the side like, yo, Ed Templeton.
It's uncanny how it happens. Like all the HB Pier sightings happen exactly when I'm like going in for a photograph.
Yeah.
Every time. It's like I'm sitting. It's like it's at the moment when I'm probably least aware of my surroundings because I'm looking at one thing and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like get this. And a lot of my work is like, especially on the pier, is just walking full speed by something, and that's how I get so close. Is like I'm just going by and shooting on 500th of a second, so I'm like stopping the motion and like getting. And it's always when I'm like approaching something, is like when someone's like, "Hey Ed," and it's just like, just blew my whole photo. Just getting cock blocked.
Cock blocked by fandom.
Blocked by fandom. Yeah.
And I sit in the back and laugh.
But that happens more. It's always during that one moment when I'm trying to shoot.
That's what you get for stealing my nudie photo in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Actually, I didn't think about this, but you were interviewed by some Japanese journalists before this. I'm curious, like, what kind of questions that they sort of ask about the photos, because I think specifically California culture is always kind of like an interesting place to start, when you're for them, I would assume. But like, what kind of questions are they asking? Is it pretty?
It's
naive questions,
No. I think. The one problem is that I think for both of us, there's the language barrier makes the nuance harder.
Of course,
like we're sitting here talking, and there's like tons of nuance and like inflections, and I'm like assuming that it's going to be like a fully English speaking audience, so I can speak the way I normally would speak when I'm speaking with a Japanese person. Like they're using like a simplified version of English for us, and then I end up feel like I'm talking like a caveman back to them, like in English even. It's like, because I don't want to go too fast and have too much nuance, because I can tell that they're glazing over, like we don't understand what you're saying, so you have to kind of
really like jokes either.
Break it down. Yeah, and we've tried to like make jokes, and it's like you see it falling flat, like they don't get it.
It's like a comedian having a bad night.
Yeah,
the bit didn't work.
Yeah, you bomb your interview, so you end up like, so I don't think that they're necessarily like asking naive questions. It's just that it's hard to like express in a more fluid way or like a more nuanced way what they want to ask. What I guess the main answer to that question is that it's a lot of times it's very like Japan specific. Mm-hmm. Like the first interview you do is like it's specifically a website or magazine that is about nightlife here. So they were like specifically asking us about like, what do you do at night? Like, and I'm like, well, we're like the worst people to ask, because we don't drink or don't do drugs, and we don't go to nightclubs or like any of that stuff. But we do walk around at night and shoot photos. So I was like telling them about that.
It's a good angle for them.
Yeah.
I think she saw, because I had a book published by this publisher all about photos shot at night, in somewhere from Japan. So I think that's what she was.
Saw some of those
so she
photos.
did better research than I did.
Oh
no, I'm just joking.
But she was asking.
That's great. That's good. That's good research.
But yeah.
Yeah, and so we're just so I think a lot of the interviews we've done though have been about like they're interested in like what we like about Japan, what we like about the city, like what do we do? That's what it seems like. That's a big interest for the Japanese press, has been like, what do you do when you're here? Right. What do you look for? What are you interested in? Like, what about us do you like?
Are they aware that Japanese culture to an American is a little bit, it is so foreign?
Yeah, they fully see it, and like.
And they understand, like they have a lot of different rules than we
have
back
we
at home
tell them, like we say, everything's cute here, everything's polite here, everything's orderly here. It's like amazing.
So
to
well
see.
thought out and well designed.
Well, I was going to say too, when you first asked about nostalgia, I think another way it works here, it's not that everything is based with like the advertising here, it isn't old, but considering it's in a foreign language, it doesn't come off the same as like having a big monster. Oh, I don't know if I should say the company. It shouldn't be the same as like company logos that we have back at home that might be a little distracting or that I don't want in my photo. I don't like it visually. But here it's like it's a foreign language, so I think that's why it also works here for us. It's like there could be advertisement in the background of our photo, but it's not the same as ours. I think that the backdrops here are.
Yeah, that's something that's interesting too. Yeah, because we both kind of both of our photography, we try to avoid. Like, I don't like dating things. Like, I ideally would want it to be timeless, so I end up getting close and cutting out everything.
And the subject does it for you. You know, it's what controls, like, what era. But, like, these photos we're looking at here, I couldn't tell you what year they were.
No, and they're tight. That's the thing. It's like a lot of street photography, like, from the Winogrand model is, like, 35 millimeter lens, sort of, like, fast and loose and wide and showing like a lot of that background and stuff. So I like to cut the background out, and especially at home, that's just something that we really hate is advertising and all the like shitty ads everywhere.
Right, because then it's like if you get one of those like a movie poster and you're like, well, I guess I know that was 2017 or something like that.
That might not even bother me as much,
but this is the age-old question. It's like we look back now finally at like photos from the 60s and go, look at that gas station, it's so cool, yes, look at these ads.
Right.
And so logic would say that we're going to look in 20 years, we're going to look back on 2019 ads and be like, oh, look at these, whatever. Right. I just have a feeling that that's not the case. I don't think we're going
to be like the Walker Evans moment.
I don't think we're going to look back fondly on 2019 like, oh, look at those cool ads. Like, I think it's just going to be like, oh.
But here,
that's my opinion. But most people would, I've debated this a lot with photographers, and they think like, no, you should just include it.
But what's fascinating is that, but here we are celebrating an art movement, an art show that's about that really had an aesthetic that was born out of a certain era. So maybe there are going to be certain things 30 years from now, just like the design of a certain ad is going to be like, whoa, that was.
That's
really,
what I mean. That's
like,
logic.
Whoa, the Google logo was really great. Like, I mean, I doubt we're going to do that, but
that's most people are of that camp. I think most people I've talked to are from the camp of like. Logically, maybe it's going to take 40 years, but we're going to look back on this time fondly at some point, the ads and the whole thing. And so I've opened it up to that a little bit. Like, I've notoriously hate cell phones in my photos, but it's inevitable now. I mean, this book has cell phones in it, but like the last book I just did with Arts, I purposely made sure there was no cell phones in it, and still I missed one. I was so pissed when when the book got published. I was like, "Fuck! I missed a cell phone." There's like a lady holding a cell phone in the background of this photo, and I'm so mad about it. I don't know why. That's nostalgia. It's it's really stupid to even admit that, but it was just a personal thing. Once I looked through the book and realized oh, most of them don't have it, so then I actually took 2 out that had cell phones because I was like, I'll replace them with other photos, just to have a book that is free of cell phones.
You used to joke too.
There's really no reason for it, and it's like I said, it's probably a stupid idea, but I like the idea. Once I discovered, I was most of the way there.
But I was going to say, sometimes when we're able to find that picture, that photo that has nothing to to date it, or at least it comes across maybe it was older, then we think back to ourselves well, is anyone going to actually believe we were alive in the 50s?
Yeah, we joke. I'm like, no one's going to think this is the 1940s. Why are we trying to cut out everything modern in this photo? But it's I think it's just a mental thing to sort of try to make something timeless, to not have it be dated.
And it's not like those classic, let's just use the example, American photographers from the Depression were they're taking pictures of the gas stations. They weren't taking it and thinking well, I can't wait till somebody 60 years now sees this logo. I think it's just the world we live in, and the way that those identities kind of permeate into our culture, even if we don't want them to. You didn't want that cell phone, but they're just there.
Yeah, no,
so you can't miss
it's part
it.
of life now. And I use one too, and I have it, and I'm on it, and I make fun of people on my Instagram of it, and I'm on it too, and making fun of myself. So it's I'm not apart from this world of being stuck in a cell phone all the time.
Do you feel like you're less on your cell phones here?
I don't own one, so yeah.
She doesn't even own one.
You don't own a cell phone?
No.
Oh, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Not if you lose me.
You're the first person on the Radio Juxtapoz podcast that doesn't have a cell phone. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
she
I do
posts her
have
Instagram from an iPad. She
Yeah,
has an
I
iPad.
have an iPad, but I don't. It
Carry it
just
around
stays in
with her.
the it just so it's
So she only
morning or
posts when
night.
she's
I
at
And it's
home.
amazing. You got yourself here today, so it all works out.
I have one.
Okay, that is true. Okay.
I was a holdout for really long though. I mean, I went way in I think I've only still had one for like 7 or 8 years now.
And I did say you take a photo with it, so you do use it.
I use it all. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, you've seen my Instagram. I mean, I over Instagram.
Yeah.
My Instagram's mostly photos like that I shot on my camera and then scan and then every now and then.
All right. Would you ever just like steal his camera phone and just take a photo if you see something really good that he missed?
No, but I do I'll take his if he's doing some artwork or whatever, I'll take his phone so I
Yeah,
can shoot him.
she's used it to document stuff and.
But I really like it. I like that you don't have a phone.
Me too.
You're probably way more sane than most of us.
No, but sometimes it gets a little lonely though. Like if we go out to eat. No, but I mean because if everyone's down looking at their phones, it's like I really need to start bringing a book.
It's not lonely. They're lonely on their phone. They're the lonely
No, but
ones.
I do it to her. I mean, I'll be like looking at the phone at dinner, and then I
I
look
need to
up and
start
she's just sitting
bringing
there
a-
like.
But it's fine. But I am thinking though. I'll just sit.
And it makes me realize like.
I don't know. I think that everybody. I have like a real big pet peeve when I'm at like a dinner. And people start looking at their phones, unless like we're at like a work dinner and like, oh, hey, we're all in it together. Oh, we gotta check something real quick. But like when it just like small talk all of a sudden becomes like looking at your Instagram feed. It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah,
I do it too.
That boring, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, at regular dinners, I read somewhere that you really shouldn't have your phones on the table. If it's just a regular, let's hang out and talk, and because it really is distracting because you just hear that little noise or whatever, and even though we could be talking, there's still a little bit of you listening, so it's
it's bad.
It would be better to not.
I think we're still in the infancy of and there was a point when a lot of people had cell phones, but now it's like really accessible. Everybody, literally everybody has a cell phone, so. I think we're still in that stage of figuring out what the etiquette is.
Well, it's funny. That's a good question or a good point because today even I'm here for RVCA to cover this event, and I was taking photos of people when they were setting up. But normally, actually, when I'm on just a plain Juxtapoz trip on my own, I don't really take a lot of photos. I just talk. So today, I kind of felt I even had to ask Steve. Steve, it's okay if I take photos of you while you're paying? He's like, yeah, man, it's totally fine. I'm like, okay, I just I don't normally do this. I actually kind of give you your space and don't want it. But today I kind of had to ask questions or kind of ask permission. 2
months ago, we were in Copenhagen for an exhibition for Ed, and we came from London first, which everyone's on their cell phones and, or just being normal, what today's standards are. But the first couple of hours in Copenhagen, you were freaking out. It was awesome.
We had this weird first hour. We left our hotel and we're walking from where our hotel was to the city center, and I kind of started noticing. I'm like, no one's on a phone here. This is freaking me out. And I'm like, Deanna, look, there's no one on a phone. She's like,
no one was walking and looking.
No one is walking. No one's riding a bike looking. I mean, London, everybody's on a phone, riding a bike, doing whatever you're doing. Delivery guys with their cart of packages is looking at. Everyone has a phone. And so it was like a weird trip out moment. Everyone looks like a movie star here. It's models, male models. Everyone looks all hot, fit Denmark style.
Good fashion too. They're always dressed really nice.
Everyone looks all cool, and no one's looking at a phone. But then as we got closer to the city center, it started creeping in. But there was a weird. It still wasn't as bad, but there was a weird hour where it's perfect here. There's no one on a phone. Everyone's enjoying their life in the moment. Yeah, people were reading books and stuff and out in public.
It was really nice.
But then as we were
what is this foreign place to speak of?
Books. And I brought a book with me on this trip. I even read a little bit. I was having a nice time. I was this is kind of luxurious. I should be doing this more often. Do you guys have a place that you would move to that's not Huntington Beach?
We think about it all the time. I think both of us hate the idea that our bio says born, worked, and lived and died in Huntington Beach. That would really be sad. And so we've been thinking about, I mean, we're constantly thinking about like buying a house in Italy or Japan or something like that would be amazing.
I mean,
but
ideally it would be London, but way too expensive.
I don't think we can afford just moving to London.
But then we were thinking Berlin is very affordable.
Berlin might be affordable, so we thought that could be cool. But even like moving to LA is a possibility. We've kind of been like sticking our toe in a little bit, looking at some stuff. But
again, I think it's just because I think where we live in Orange County, it's just becoming.
We've reached a weird
dark
limit. Like we shoot down there so much. We're down there all the time. It's our get out of the house thing. It's just get up, go take a walk on the pier, and it's like every day you see a guy with a swastika tattoo,
or white power tattoo.
Or some white power tattoo. Like the downtown there is just like a cesspit of like grossness. And then we get to the beach part and the pier part, and you're like, okay, this is nice. I'm over the ocean. Like, how can I be mad at this paradise? I'm like sitting on the Pacific Ocean. There's whales, there's dolphins, there's like people sunbathing. It's fun. But then
dolphins, whales, and swastika.
Yeah, no, it's like that. I mean, that's what Huntington Beach is. It's like, and then we like walk off the pier back into the downtown area to go back to our car, and it's just like, oh yeah, this place is like. So I don't know. It's always been a love-hate relationship. And so I don't know.
It's great for space.
I feel like we've shot it to the point where we each have like 5 books of work that can be coming out in the future about Huntington Beach. And it's like I think we're both a little bit at the point where we're like, I don't know what else to shoot here. Like we've shot everything. There's
a great line that Matthew Broderick grew up in like the West Village in New York, lives 3 blocks from where he grew up, like, went to school he's just like, the story was nothing. I just kind of like, it happened. I lived in the same kind of area my whole life. But there is something that because you guys are known for shooting, there is part of it that you guys are known for shooting those photos, especially on your Instagram. Like that would be kind of interesting if you left.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think if I left, I would adopt the same practice in a new place. It'd be like, we live on La Cienega or something, it's like, it's going to be the daily La Cienega photo or something, and I'll just shoot like whatever, or I'll figure out the scene that I'm going to shoot. But I would probably just start, a 15-year documentary of wherever I was living.
Just a new hashtag.
In theory, just a new hashtag.
See, about hashtags. So
she's savvy now.
I have a hashtag obviously shot on my iPad when I shoot.
She has her own hashtag,
if I do bust it out and shoot a photo in the hotel room.
We could, I can ask like one last question because it's good. I mean, it's been great. Tonight, opening for the Beautiful Losers, Now and Then, right?
Yeah.
I keep getting it mixed up, then and now. Now and then. I keep asking Aaron, it's now and then, right? The last time this group ever shown here together? Because like the time that I saw the obviously the project where you and Barry and a couple other people smashed cars. But is this kind of like the first time that the Japanese scene has seen this project like this?
No, I don't think so. Because the Beautiful Losers traveling show came to Tokyo.
But when was that? That was like over 10 years ago?
It was one of the latter ones. So I can't remember when the first Cincinnati show started. I'm bad at dates, but I know that
this is the first time in at least 10 years.
It was in Cincinnati, then it went to like the Urban Buena Center for the Arts, and then it went it went to Milan.
It was 10 years ago, because that's when Now said the last time she interviewed Aaron and
was 10 years ago.
Was 10 years ago for that.
And Aaron had a gallery here for a couple of years, correct?
Yeah, him and a Japanese guy did like alleged Tokyo basically. So I think and Gons is real popular here, both as a skater, as an artist. I mean like as a cultural figure, and Barry of course. So like all the people involved are like have had a lot, like a real healthy like Japan situation.
And that's what I was getting at, is that it's amazing that all of you, I was kind of like looking through, I'm like, Barry's shown here so much. I know I saw Steve's show here a couple of years ago. I think he had a show. You've got the books. Like I just feel like it's it feels like everybody's got their own little pocket of like fandom here.
It's been a thing for
sure.
And
tonight's gonna be busy.
And
I was gonna say that Untitled show that you guys did was everyone came out, but you guys all got put into different galleries.
that whole thing was incredible. It was like called Untitled 2001, and the concept was that it was a group show, but everyone had their own solo show all around the town, and you'd get a map saying like, so it's a group show, but each person has their own solo show basically.
Didn't you
And
guys
so
get
I had like
walkie-talkies?
a gallery in Harajuku, I think, and Thomas also had a gallery there that basically like let us take over their space for that month. And then the Spiral Gallery had a couple, like Chris did installation and Margaret had work all, and maybe like Phil Frost all had work at that space. And then Barry did the Crash Up Derby, and he painted cars and some billboards right in the middle of Shibuya. And then they had that Crash Up Derby as illegal.
And then Mark was out
illegal
for
thing.
that too.
Yeah, Gons was here doing, I forget what he did.
Getting arrested.
Where he did, yeah, something happened with him.
It's kind of easy to get arrested here. If you kind of just get a little off the. I mean, they were worried about Bradford getting arrested yesterday for playing music on the roof.
Yeah, I don't know. I've gotten hassled by security guards for skating, but I've never been.
Hey, that's good. Yeah.
But have you ever seen anyone get arrested here?
I've seen a couple people.
Have you seen it when they do the big fork?
I have a photo of the perp fork. So for the listeners in Japan, the police have a half circle attached to a giant pole, and this circle is used to put around someone and then clamp them to a wall and also keep your distance from them. So it's like a fork that you put a perpetrator in, and we call it the perp fork. I call it the perp fork. I don't know what their term for it is, but
we hope this never happens to you, or
maybe
it does.
No.
We hope you never are perp fork. So imagine like a Neptune's trident without the middle spear.
Again, it's kind of polite.
So this guy, I missed the part where they actually forked him to the wall, but there was a drunk guy doing some public, disorderly conduct, and these police came up to him and just rammed him with the perp fork against the wall. But he was spazzing out, so they were all standing back but holding him with the fork with the pole. It was amazing. It's like, I wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole.
In concept, in practice.
It's really... So I have a photo that shows the perp fork in it, but I missed the part where they actually forked him. But that's kind of cool.
So maybe we'll see somebody, or let's not see somebody arrested tonight.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
You never know.
Yeah, but hopefully not.
Well, thank you guys.
They're very rule-oriented people here.
They are
very much about the rules.
Wait, okay. Here's one.
They don't modify stuff at restaurants.
Two things. There's no trash cans anywhere.
No
you
trash
have to
cans
really
anywhere.
look for them.
No, you're expected to eat or buy something, drink it, and at the spot where you bought it.
Takeaway culture is like a little, yeah.
Well, the reason of that is that it's impolite to be drinking and walking. The same as smoking. Yeah, that's why they do it.
Yeah, definitely smoking and walking is a weird thing.
Smoking, walking, they're trying to get people to stop using cell phones and walking, but that's kind of a lost cause. But there's signs everywhere saying do not walk and use your cell phone, and but people have adopted the don't smoke and walk, and they have adopted for the most part. Now that it's been summer, we've noticed a lot more people drinking, and we've been like, whoa, rebel, someone walking with a cup or something.
Also, nobody crosses the street, when it's red. But then occasionally I see one person, and I'm like, they clearly lived in America for a little bit. They studied it.
They've been to New York. We feel bad, Deanna. We've done it where we're sitting there. People lined up on both sides, zero people, no cars on the street. You're just like, why are we waiting here?
And it's exhausting to wait.
Yeah,
and something about it. It's just okay.
And then we'll cross, but then as we cross, we realize there's a woman with her 2 young children, and they see us crossing, and they're just like,
oh, that's
the kids are just like, what are they doing? And then we see them seeing us and go, ugh, this is so bad. We feel bad. And the mom looks at us like, no,
exactly.
you assholes.
You just fucked up.
Yeah.
Hundreds of
I've
years
taught them
of discipline
to follow
in this
the rules.
country.
Yeah, I've taught them to follow the rules.
Thousands of years.
And now you're showing them that they can cross the street without getting killed and not have to wait at the light.
What she says is don't follow the white people.
Yeah, don't follow Gaijin. Yeah.
Don't follow their
Last
method.
year, he made 2 little kids cry.
In Fukuoka, we went to Fukuoka, which is on the southernmost part of the main island of Japan.
No, we didn't see any.
There was not a lot of Americans there, and twice in the same day, just looking at a kid made him cry, and that felt really weird. So we're on a subway, and a mom's holding a kid, so the face is like pointing at me. And I think I looked at the kid like a little bit, and I just like smiled and waved at the kid, straight to bawling. Like, and I realized like, God, this kid's looking at us going like, what the fuck is this guy? You know, like all I've seen is Japanese people. And like, this guy's white, like it must look like a freak, you know, he's got this gray beard and he's gross and giant, like his skin's all splotchy and white trashy. I don't know. Like,
I don't know if you're gross, but okay, all right.
But to a Japanese child, to a Japanese child, I must look hideous, you know? It's like, well, you know, because kids don't have that filter. They just go, you know, you're the other. You're like so I just must have looked like an ogre to him. And then the same. So I was like, that was weird. I think I just made a kid cry by looking at him. And then, literally like an hour later, another little girl was there, and I think, did I try to do my hat flip to her? Like I think if she was staring at us, probably because we look like freaks. And so I looked at her and I tried to flip
really
my hat
going
up.
over the top of this freak thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I just imagined it.
Different.
And then, I looked at her and I think I waved and she just started crying. And I'm just like, I have got a bad run going today, like making kids cry left and right.
But Deanna, you didn't make anyone cry.
I don't think so.
You didn't make any eye contact with anybody.
She semi-blends in here. She's short, has black hair.
Yeah.
People don't know what kind of race she is. Like, you might pass as a Japanese to some people.
It's true. I've had people just start trying to talk to me, and it's like, I don't speak Japanese. Like just, and then lots of bowing. It's like, I don't.
Yeah, this is not working. But thank you. But thank you.
I wish it was.
Yeah. I wish I had, the discipline and patience and design aesthetic of. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
That's great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruka. Thank you, Trunk Hotel,
Yes.
for hosting us.
Thank you, Japan.